What's up, you guys? Adam here with Anabolic Climbing, and today we're going to talk about what it feels like to climb on peptides, a 1-week check-in. For the past week, I've had the privilege of running a little bit of Retatrutide and some SLU PP 332. So, starting the mini cut, if you want to know what it feels like to climb on peptides, sit back, relax, grab yourself a LaCroix, and let's jump into it. So, I'm ultimately starting a mini cut for the better part of the past 6 months. I've been gradually gaining weight from about 154 pounds up to about 167.4 and made great strength gains, but it's time to take a little bit of a diet break. So now is time to break out the fat burners, and we have two super cool heavy hitters. If you are unfamiliar with Retatrutide, Retatrutide is the 4th generation GLP-1 agonist, but it is not like semaglutide, it is not like tirzepatide. Oh no, this both hits the glucagon, the GLP-1, the GIP agonist, and is also a GCGR as well. So it hits the glucagon, it has insulin secreting effects, and also helps with energy expenditure. So, rather than just smashing my appetite, making it so that I'm nauseous and don't want to eat, it does promote satiety, but it also stimulates the insulin secretion indirectly through the GLP-1, and it also influences lipid metabolism as well, and helps with stimulating lipolysis and fat breakdown. So, not only am I eating a little bit less and having a better option for diet adherence, but I'm also getting some enhanced lipolysis effects as well. That's how we came to the conclusion that Reta is what we're going to start. I've been going with 0.2 milligrams every other day, and so far diet adherence has been really good. I haven't had any serious nausea. It's been pretty chill. There have been some effects of being a little sluggish. When I get into my workouts, that hasn't really been an issue, but I think a lot of the reason for me just feeling a little bit tired is just because I have been consuming probably about 25% less calories. I've been keeping my protein between 180 to 200 grams of protein a day. My calories are probably between 1,700 to 1,900 calories a day. And that's down from 23 to 2,500 a day for quite some time. So it is not unusual that I have been a little bit sluggish, at least starting out. Once the Retatrutide sort of builds up, though, the food noise goes way down. After my second dose, was not getting hunger cravings. The way my eating schedule is, I'll wake up, eat some oatmeal, have some coffee with a protein shake, and then I'm not eating until dinner unless I'm having a little bit of carbs during my workouts. Then I'll have some chili and some either meat or veg for dinner, have some protein yogurt and a little bit of fruit for dessert, and that's it. That's all I'm eating. So despite being on really light calories and having really low satiety foods, most of my protein is coming from shakes and yogurt and protein oatmeal. Diet adherence is pretty chill. And then let's talk about the SLU PP 332, which, if you guys remember, I was snacking on when I was in Japan to basically eat like an absolute asshole and try to maintain my waist. So if you guys remember, it works on the estrogen 2 receptor. It helps stimulate weight loss in rats, improves endurance, muscle function, potentially is a treatment for metabolic disease, and has mitochondrial functional support, which, while increasing energy or cellular energy and production efficiency sounds really cool, I don't really know what that means in terms of practical application. However, what does it feel like to climb on SLU PP 332? Now that I've had about a week to sort of think about it and be more mindful in my training instead of just, what was happening in Japan, where I was still training a little bit, but I was mostly there to just walk around, take pictures, and eat a bunch of food. There are certain things that I've noticed pretty quickly. And the first of those is probably the endurance. The main thing that I've noticed is I was really huffing and puffing a lot in between my workouts. Part of it is with the added muscle requires more blood flow. That impacts the cardio. And it took me a lot of times between boulder sets, between lifting sets, to adjust to the higher blood flow capacity from my muscle. Not that I put on a lot, but I am not a cardio monster. So the SLU PP 332, I just found it was a lot easier to just grind through my workouts, particularly on plyometrics, where I'm having to step up on ledges, jump back down, land, then jump, then repeat the process 15 times. Initially, I was like, there's no way, I'm on a calorie deficit, I'm not getting this done. And 7 reps in, I'm like, we can get 2 more, we can get 2 more, we can get 2 more. And before I knew it, I was breezing through the 15 on the plyos, and wasn't that bad. Even on the kilter board, I noticed my recovery between sets was much better than it has been in months. And I definitely credit the SLU for that, because I'm not doing any serious cardio. I've upped my steps from 8K a day to 11 to 12K a day, but that shouldn't have any major impacts to the cardiovascular system. In addition to that, my need for intra-workout carbs, I'm usually crushing 60 grams of carbs during my workouts. I've dropped it to 20 since I've been on a cut, and I've been fine. The initial cardio help from the SLU has been pretty game-changing. So I have been really happy on that, and I'll report back in a couple weeks to see if that sticks. One of the potential side effects for SLU PP 332 is hyperthermia, not hypothermia. So your body tends to overclock and get a little bit hot. And there have been times where I felt a little bit warm, but it's also summer in Southern California, sleeping just fine, not really overheating. I think the effects are more pronounced the more muscular you are. I've heard of bodybuilders sweating a whole bunch. It's been super manageable for me, man. I have not had a lot to complain about, and the hands have not been too clammy either for lifts or for the climbing itself. Chalk has been super helpful, and the added cardio help has made deadlifts and kilter just super chill, man. So that sort of leads me to one of the possible impacts on SLU would be better muscle control and power output. And I got another rep on my deadlifts. My weighted pull-ups went super clean. Kilter board looking better. If you guys are looking at the footage, that's from week 1 of the cut. That I think was like day 3 or day 4 on the red on SLU. And I'm moving a little bit better, moving a little bit cleaner. I am cautiously optimistic about this. I felt less stiff on the wall in Japan, and I feel less stiff on the kilter now. So I am too hesitant to say that it's just from the SLU and not just from the improved training regimen, but I definitely feel less stiff than I did 2 weeks ago. I'll see if that continues through the rest of this mini cut. But what about the scale, right? I told you guys that I was 167.4 pounds at the beginning of, or at the end of the bulk. 7 days in, already down 3 pounds. Some of that's probably water, some of that's probably glycogen. Abs are coming in more visible. Waist is down a little bit on my weight belt. It's the first time where I've been able to move the notch 1 over, so I can definitely am seeing a reduction in the circumference of my waist. To the surprise of no one, Retatrutide works super well, and it seems like the stacking of that with the SLU seems to be pretty darn effective. So, some closing thoughts before we hop into the remainder of this cut. The over-under is whether or not I'm going to lose 10 pounds. I could go either way on it. I'm not super concerned about the scale. I'm still running the test in the Anavar. So it's possible that I'll maintain a lot of size during this cut. I'm really just interested in doing a 6-week strict cut. The scale isn't really the goal, it's just a measuring stick. I just want to maintain as much power and as much strength while dropping some fat and reducing some of the load on the scale. I think that'll be both helpful for my joints, for my fingers, for my hips, and I think it'll impact my climbing pretty well as a whole. There's one last thing that I'm curious about. Over the last training block, when we went to block pulls, I went from pulling 110 to 135 because I was still running the test in the Anavar. Neither of those have left my protocol. If I'm continuing to be able to put 25 pounds on my block pulls in a deep calorie deficit, holy shit, dude, that would be pretty revolutionary. And if by some chance I am able to pull 30 pounds on the next round of strength tests, it looks like Anavar and SLU could be goated compounds. That would mean I would be able to dead hang on a 20 millimeter edge one-handed after barely being able to do that on 6 months ago, which is inconceivable to me. That is just absolutely mental. So, with that said, I am cautiously optimistic. In general, a lot of you might reasonably think, man, Retatrutide and SLU PP seem incredible, I should go get some. And I would really urge you guys to pump the brakes on that for 2 reasons. With Reta, I feel a little more comfortable if someone wanted to go ahead and experiment. We have a whole bunch of use cases on GLP-1s. They're super safe. There's clinical trials from Eli Lilly that you can read on how things are going with Reta. It's already in phase 3. So reasonable safety expectations from Reta, assuming you're getting it from a reliable source. And while I have extraordinary hopes for SLU PP 332 in humans, I'll tell you, I'm dosing it at 500 micrograms a day, 250 micrograms in the morning and in the evening. I would advise against taking it just yet. And I'll tell you why. My blood work has come back clean so far. I know about a dozen other folks who have ran it, whose blood work has come back perfect. But that's the extent of human data that we have. There are no clinical trials. All we have is 2 guys with good organ imaging, some good rounds of labs, and some anecdotal experience. And to be honest, the jury is still super out on whether or not it's applicable for climbing. I'll check back in 5 more weeks to see if we saw any outsized gains, and I'll be continuing to share my updates and progress week to week on training footage. But while I think this could, I'll cautiously say this could be one of the most impactful climbing compounds that is released, period, I would definitely wait for a whole bunch more data, both from myself and from other people that tested, before jumping in on it yourself. That said, if you have any questions, please leave them down in the comments below. I appreciate you guys sticking around for a longer one. I cannot wait to check back in with you guys in another 5 weeks on what the weight loss was, what the strength gains were, cardio impacts from SLU PP. That said, it's been a super fun process. Last but not least, orders are just in. There are some fun new compounds to test in the next training block, which is going to be super fun. So sit tight. Lots more training footage, lots more compound reviews, lots more stuff to test. It's an exciting time in, enhanced climbing. So if you made it this far, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe. Appreciate you guys. Adam with the Anabolic Climbing, giving you guys a front double and signing out. Cheers and happy sending.